Alright, so now what we have is a single element structure in bending. So please feel free to go and open up this file, see for yourself what's going on. All that's changing is this element bend is now applying a shear on the right hand edge, uniform shear. You can go and calculate what's the expected stress. That's part of the verification, so I'm not going to do it, but it's up to you to do it. It's very easy. You can calculate the moment, 100 times a moment arm of 4 millimeters. You can go and calculate 1/12 BH to the power 3, and then the distance from the neutral axis, essentially, where the maximum stress will be at the top and the bottom for compression and tension. That is essentially 0.25 millimeters. So that's essentially, you have all the information to go and do that. And don't expect things to be necessarily accurate, because we are doing a single element Q4 and we are doing bending, and we know there's issues with bending in the Q4 element. Okay, so let's take note of that. But what we get is we get sort of a response out like this. And now we can understand and interpret this response a little bit better. So what we can do is to say, okay, if I run this mode participation factor, I go and calculate. Let me just make sure I run this quickly. I run this, and then I run this, and say, oh, fantastic. What I have now is essentially my response that I've now calculated the contributions for, and what I see is essentially it's the last mode full on and the second mode. So mode 4, almost everything goes into that, and a little bit of it goes into mode 2. And so we can look at the energies, almost all the energies in the fourth mode. A little bit of the energy goes into the second mode. So this is the strain energy per mode. And so what we can do is we can go up and say, fantastic. Sorry, not this one. This one, where we actually have now the different modes. We can say this was our first mode. This one is not active. This one is a little bit active. That's the one that's slightly active. You can see that sort of that pushing and pulling, the bending. And then essentially what we see is we see the strain energy. This mode is the last mode, the fourth one. Almost everything goes into this mode, and it all makes sense if you look at this deformation mode. Okay, but what we have the advantage of is we have a bit of a. You can imagine how this was a much more complex kind of response. We would have a much better idea of these kind of more simplified deformation modes, how much of what is present and active in that response. Okay, so now we can go to essentially say, okay, we can now go to multiple elements. So this is now, all of this was just to do single element stuff, just to show you more or less how the deformation modes can be expressed, and we